way of naming things, but it could be the same thing, but in a different words when you go to Europe or in some other countries, right?
Yeah. Well, I think there is definitely a possibility of that, but the Board of Examiners have, like I said, they're a very diverse group of people. The academic examiners, as you know, in academic departments at the university, they're very diverse. Okay, the majority of people in engineering departments in Canada are probably not Canadian. Okay, so they're the ones evaluating academic documents. And the experienced examiners have worked for multinational organizations all over the world. Right?
Yeah.
So I think in the majority of cases, they do their best to try to understand those differences in terminology. And you know, if you're not satisfied with the evaluation that they give you, there are appeal processes and ways to go about having them look at it a second time and so on. Okay, so in terms of the documentation that you submit today, it's important to be very thorough in completing the documentation before you give it to APEGGA, because there are no personal interviews. They don't conduct any face-to-face meetings with applicants. Everything that you submit, everything that will be evaluated for your licensure process must be on paper. Okay? So very thorough, very conscious, determined effort in filling out these forms. You're going to save yourself a lot of time and possibly heartache if you do it properly the first time. Okay? The documentation that they look at is transcripts, a detailed description of work experience, reference questionnaires, master's or PhD documentation if applicable, and English language competency documentation. And we'll go through, again, what all of those terms and points mean. So I guess I'll give you a bit of a timeline here to understand the process and the average time frame. All right. So you apply to APEGGA. You can do this tomorrow if you're fast and you complete the first steps of the application process. So the clock starts. 0 days, all right? And then from the point which you apply to the point where APEGGA has all the necessary documentation to begin the evaluation takes an average of 3 months, because they have to talk to your references and they have to have your transcripts from your university. All right, so when APEGGA has the necessary documentation and they begin evaluating it, to when they have a decision to report to you, okay, this takes an average of 9 months. Okay? Again, these are average numbers. Sometimes it's much quicker. Sometimes it could be a little bit longer. All right? And then from the point where they report a decision to you to when you become licensed and you meet all the requirements, takes an average of 0 to 24 months. Okay? So the entire process takes 1 to 3 years. Okay? Does anyone have any questions about this or need some clarification? Okay. Maybe some question that you have is about the decision. After APEGGA looks at your documents, they look at all of those documents related to the 5 criteria. They may say, now you need to do this, or now you need to do this, or this, in order to meet the requirements for licensure. Okay? But like I said, everybody is eligible, and they will evaluate and offer everyone a path. Okay? As long as you are an engineer in some ways. So let's start looking at the forms. Let's look at the document titled Application for Registration, that 4-page document. It's a 4-page loose, it's not stapled, it's just 4 separate pages. So you'll see here on the application for registration, they immediately ask you to decide which designation you're applying for. So for those of you who have more than 4 years of professional experience, including 4 years of some of your postgraduate experience in a master's or PhD degree is also possibly part of that. So we'll talk about that again, what postgraduate work means in terms of experience. But some of you will be applying for professional members, some of you will be applying for EIT if you have less than 4 years of professional experience. On the left-hand side, you'll be just saying, I want to be an engineer, I want to be applying as an engineer candidate. And then further to the right, there's some categories of engineering. You'll have to tell them which field of engineering you wish to apply in. Okay, so some of you, I know because of your introductions, you don't all fit here. Nilufar, is that your name? Biomedical engineering. Is it closer to like electrical, maybe? So maybe you'll have to look at, you might have to compare an electrical degree and maybe something else related to biomedical engineering and choose the one that matches the most, because that's the way they're going to be evaluating you. They don't yet have a category for biomedical engineer. Okay? It's the same for like instrumentation and controls. Sometimes people have difficulty between electrical and mechanical and that kind of thing. So if you're stuck in the middle between two of these categories, you may have to look at 2 undergraduate degree programs at the University of Alberta and say, okay, which does mine most closely relate to? Okay. And then your personal information, that's pretty straightforward. You just tell them who you are, your surname, your name, birthday, all that. Right. If you're not working, you don't need to list a company name. Don't worry about that. You just say not applicable. Post-secondary education, they want you to list your post-secondary education in reverse chronological order. So if you have a PhD, start with that and go back in time. Does everyone understand what post-secondary education is? That's a term that we use to describe education after high school. Okay? So after the age of 17, 18.
And this also includes postdoc.
You could include it, I guess. Yeah, go ahead, include it. In the middle section, in the bold font, there is a description of these 3 courses called the Complementary Studies courses, 98 CS 1, 2, and 3. Now, you all have a sheet that I gave you called the Complementary Studies syllabus. It looks like this. It has 3 kind of syllabus of courses. I guess it would be syllabi, wouldn't it? No.
Excuse me, I don't have that.
You don't have it? Okay, you can take this one. So you'll see those 3 courses listed, and those are basically undergraduate university course syllabi from a Canadian university course in engineering. In Canada, university students in an undergraduate degree in engineering will study those 3 subjects: engineering economics, engineering health, safety and environment, and engineering management. So what APEGGA is asking you to do in this middle section is to give them evidence that you have studied or that you have experience in those 3 subject areas. Okay? So if you've studied those 3 subjects, engineering, health, safety and environment, or management, they want to see those courses from your undergraduate degree or from your master's degree possibly, or whatever capacity you've studied it. Attach a course description from your university with your application. Okay? Has everyone taken those courses? Most of you? Some of you haven't. If you haven't taken those courses, don't worry too much, because you all probably have work experience related to those areas. Okay? And there's a way for you to meet the requirements in these 3 subjects through your work experience and your description of your work experience. Okay?
If we don't have?
If you don't have any experience or education in these areas?
About this subject, what should we do?
Do you have any work experience in those areas?
Yeah.
Okay. So then, through the work experience record, you're going to be describing your work experience, and there are some